Have you ever wanted to create your own game? How about a mini game within a bigger game? Well, that's why I created this prospecting larger map for my bigger RPG. Here's how I did it with watercolor. After lightly misting the paper with clean water, I started with a wash of manganese blue. Next, I loaded up my brush with Quin Gold and brought it down along the edges of the river. I did not mind that the Quin Gold kind of melted into the blue of the shallows. It gave it even more texture. I added in a second round of manganese and continued with the Quin Gold on the sides. After misting the paper between washes, I loaded up my brush and added in a bunch of different greens that I mixed on my palette. Some of these greens were straight from the tube, and some of them I mixed myself with different yellows and blues. I let some of the greens and yellows bleed into the Blue River, and sometimes I stopped the run if I felt like it was too much pigment running into the blue of the water. I just had fun and started placing random colors in random spots, seeing what it would do and what neat textures it might give. I thought the river needed a little more depth, so I added in some ultramarine and cobalt. I wanted to add a grid for my map so the players could keep track of where they were. Instead of a pen or a Sharpie for the grid, what I did was take a watercolor pencil, brown, and I traced the grid lines. Once the grid was finished, I used a smudge of water here and there to just blur the lines of the grid. It made it look older and more authentic. You can use a paintbrush to do this, or a spray bottle, or just a wet paper towel. I also added a bit of splatter for texture. A bit unconventional, but I bought some glitter glue from my local craft store, and I started adding it to the areas of the riverbed and the hills where I thought they'd be able to find some jewels and gems. I had no idea how sticky this glue would be once it dried, and the answer is it was very tacky at the end. Like tacky as in sticky, not tacky as in terrible. I really liked the effect that it gave on the map. I also added some little gems, so different caches. There were ruby caches and emerald caches. It just kept the game a bit more interesting. After everything was dry, I used some old paint samples that I had left over from a project. I got these at a hardware store forever ago, and instead of letting them go to waste, I just thought it'd be cool to cover up the little squares on the map. Before I added the squares, it was time for the tape reveal. This is the best part of any watercolor painting. I specifically use freezer tape because it holds that watertight seal, as well as not damaging the paper when I take off the tape. There's a link for all the materials I use, including this specific tape, in the information on this video below. And here's all the jewels and gems up close. This definitely dazzled my players as they revealed each little square on the map that showed where there were caches of gemstones. This game ended up to be a sparkly version of Minesweeper. I definitely would have wanted to play this as a child, so we had fun as adults just pretending for the day. This part took hours. I'm showing the first couple of tiles that I placed. I used two-sided tape and a ton of patience to achieve this effect, but I was basically measuring out where they might fit best and then going from there. And then times this by, I think it was like around 130 squares. So yes, hours, forever. Now I'm checking to see if the players can easily remove these tiles and replace them if needed. But to save time, let's see the oddly satisfying sped up version of this. I had a bunch of different grays and off-whites, so I tried to just evenly space them throughout the map. And finally placing the last few tiles. Everyone had fun playing Prospector Minesweeper, and one thing I did notice and learn is that you have to give a limited amount of turns. This keeps the game fresh and interesting, and the stakes feel higher if you do that. So maybe limiting it to 10 turns a person and then the game is over. If you make a map like this at home, let me know how it goes. Thanks for joining me.